my fellow book bees. We are Bees and Bookworms, a group of book-obsessed students who want to discuss the books we either love or hate. There's no in between. Basically, these are books that cause extreme ranting, my personal favourite thing to do. It's the fabulous Tara here today, by the way, the presenter of Bees and Bookworms. Behind the scenes, we have our other book bees buzzing away. Please excuse my puns. Managing our social media is Emily, while filming and editing our booktube video is Em. This gorgeous design surrounding me was created by Ria, who also made our Bees and Bookworms logo that you can check out after you've watched the video. In our videos, we are going to be chatting with you guys about our opinions on a wide variety of books that we find the most interesting to share with you. So, let's get into it. Today, we are going to be reviewing Scythe. The book is by Neal Shusterman, the New York Times best-selling author of over 30 novels for children, teens and adults. We are going to be discussing our thoughts on Scythe, giving a summary, our opinions and an overall review of the book. Before we begin, make sure to check the timestamps in the description below to ensure a spoiler-free video if you haven't already read Scythe. Now, get your popcorn and get comfy because we are going to move on to a spoiler-free summary of the book. The book follows two teenagers, Scythe and Rowan, in an allegedly utopian world where humans are immortal. In this world, there is a benevolent AI called the Thunderhead, which watches over the population to keep everything in order. However, professional scythes are needed to glean people in order to prevent the only problem of overpopulation. Gleaning is this world's word for being killed by a scythe, and it's the only way you can die. When Rowan and Scythe are given the chance to give up their lives for the Scythedom, they are faced with unexpected challenges. Scythe is the first in a trilogy of books, with Scythe followed by the Thunderhead and finally the Toll. And that's everything I'm going to tell you, unlike the blurb, which literally spoils everything. Let us know any predictions you have in the comments below. Next up, our first impressions. Just by looking at the front cover, an immediate sense of death is implied by the blood-red cowl and the image of a scythe which resembles a grim reaper. The cloaked figure is mysterious and hooked us on because it's intriguing and it makes you want to know more, like, what do the two faces that create the outline of the scythe represent, and who is it in the red robe? The blurb also instantly sparks controversy and questions like, is it moral to kill for the purpose of the population, and is it moral to spoil the whole plot of a book on the back cover? However, stay tuned, there'll be more discussions on that later on. So, things we liked about the book. Rowan and Scythe's friendship, world building and the moral questions it raised. Things we didn't like: Rowan and Scythe's relationship, and Scythe Faraday and Scythe Curie's, relationship too. We all liked the book. Don't get me wrong, it has its flaws, but overall it's a fascinating deep dive into the morality of life and death. The world building is fabulous. Neal Shusterman creates a vivid picture of the world in your head as you read because he takes the time to describe the setting in detail. This, as well as beautifully written dialogue, when the characters talk, they actually talk like real human beings, makes the book a very interesting read. I thought the characters acted consistently throughout the novel, with exceptions that we will come on to later, and when it comes to moral problems, they react like either you or me would, either spiralling into a pool of crippling self-doubt and hatred, or sticking to what they feel is morally correct. However, we didn't like the romance between Rowan and Scythe for reasons we will get into later. I initially expected the world to be more dark and bloody, but it's surprisingly mundane. I mean, it's a book about people being murdered to stop overpopulation, but in the first half of the book, when Scythe and Rowan are inside Faraday's apprenticeship, they're quite enthusiastic, like they wanted the job. It genuinely surprised me that it was so normal to them, like everything was fixed, but life just seemed exactly like the age of mortality. The fear of being gleaned is the fear of death. The flip side of this is that they live in a world where they can be healed every time they hurt themselves, but it makes no difference if the fear of being gleaned, and therefore death, is still there. Okay, it is now time for spoilers, so this is your official spoiler warning. If you don't want to know what happens next, please leave the video. Thank you. Let's get deeper into the book. Strap in. Citra and Rowan. I don't like them. As individual characters, they're perfectly fine, but to me their relationship felt forced. They both have a strong moral compass at the start of the book, at least when it comes to gleaning. And Citra in particular is not afraid to express her opinions in a very direct manner. But throughout the book, our man Rowan starts getting a bit shady. Scythe Goddard is a terrible influence, but we'll get onto him later on in the video. I could almost visualize the email Neal Shusterman received from his editor saying, Hey Neal, you should include a romantic subplot in your book. That's what the youth are into these days. And then Neal reading this email was like, wow, that's a great idea. And then he just added some weird romantic spiel in between Rowan and Citra. I don't understand why they can't just be friends. Platonic relationships can be just as meaningful and even more so than romantic ones. And I, in case you haven't noticed, am a teenage girl. So that whole argument of teenage girls like romance in books isn't valid because I hate romantic subplots. Especially when the so-called relationship parts are just them being awkwardly attracted to each other, making the whole thing seem like a bashful crush rather than a serious romance, even though they would supposedly die for each other. I'm more perplexed than anything else. That being said, some people on BookTube enjoyed the romance. Apparently they like the love-hate relationship. Speaking of forced relationships, Scythe Faraday and Scythe Curie. Skirting over the weird power dynamic and the fact that he is her mentor, it was completely unnecessary and did nothing for the plot of the book. Okay, getting a little deeper now, let's talk about the morality of gleaning as interpreted by various different Scythes, starting with Scythe Faraday. This guy is interesting. His approach to gleaning seems to be to try to imitate the age of mortality by selecting people for gleaning based on old statistics. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but it seems to me that he's trying to lift responsibility from himself by saying that it would have happened in the age of mortality, so it's okay for it to happen now. This method also seems to reflect his calm, fair, and unbiased personality. Now, Scythe Curie. The way Scythe Curie gleans is by finding people she deems to be stagnant and following them around town like a creepy stalker before gleaning them without even knowing. And that, of course, raises the question of, is it moral to glean people without telling them? And is that even the best way to be gleaned? Let us know your opinions in the comments down below. Another thing Scythe Curie does is inviting the families of those she's gleaned around for dinner, which I think is nice. And finally, we have Mr. Controversy himself. You guessed it, it's Scythe Goddard! Please don't come for me in the comments, but I actually think this guy has a point. Let me explain. I think he's right, in so much as the quota for gleaning means that Scythes will never be able to keep up with the population, and therefore the world will become overpopulated despite everyone's best efforts. However, I vastly disagree with his methods and his stupid little diamond click. And once we begin to spend time with him, any relatability quickly dissipates. Scythe Chomsky's flamethrower is iconic, but just no. Let us know in the comments which Scythe you'd rather be gleaned by and whose methods are the best. And finally, let's get so deep that we can't see the surface anymore. Is this book a utopia or a dystopia? Comment down below. I'll wait. Okay, are you back? Okay, let's discuss. One of the journal entries mentions that the chance of being gleaned is less than 1%, but then again, the only way to die is if you are gleaned. So is the fear of gleaning any better than the inevitable fear of death that people had in the age of mortality? And I think most people in the Scythe world do have the fear in the back of their minds that they will be selected for gleaning. Another point mentioned was that the age of mortality produced more meaningful and passionate works of art, as their short lives had a sense of purpose that people in the age of immortality seem to lack. Endless time means endless procrastination. It is these questions and more that Neal Shusterman explores in Scythe. At the end of the book, they all remain unanswered. Perhaps they will be in the other two books, but I doubt it. I don't know if these are questions that even can or should be answered. I hate to think what might happen if they were. Overall, we would recommend this book because of the interesting concepts and ideas it raises about the morality of gleaning. Is the book a utopia or a dystopia, and are there forced relationships? The plotline keeps you interested, and we like the journal entries which give an insight into the mind of all the characters, so you can interpret the story from multiple different points of view. There are a couple of flaws, like Rowan and Citra's relationship. However, all in all, it's still a very exciting book. We would say that this book is a good read for young adults because it isn't too gruesome, but there's still good action in it. We would like to continue with the rest of the series, as there's still a good chance that there'll be more characters introduced, new exciting ideas and problems presented, and more character development. Because the next book is called Thunderhead, maybe we can expect to see something go wrong with the Thunderhead. There hasn't been an issue yet, or at least something goes wrong that hasn't ever been expected to go wrong. What do you think? Maybe some answers will be hinted at in the upcoming novels about the utopia-dystopia debate and the morality of gleaning. Remember to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Also, turn on post notifications so that you can be the first to visit our future book discussions and comment on some books that you want us to discuss. Also, for our Scythe readers, did you enjoy the book or did you hate it? Tell us in the comments how you felt about our opinions and your personal opinions of the novel, considering it has the potential to be quite controversial. See you next time, Book Bees, and remember to subscribe or we'll sting you. Bye!